grasp. His dominion will spread across all the world, and his shadow will fall over all the free peoples of Middle-earth. Already, cruel armies have encroached into erstwhile peaceful territories, harrowing the lands and murdering all in their path. So this is a map of Mordor. Then we have all the such a thing as a hobbit. Meanwhile, Saruman's war efforts on behalf of the Dark Lord continue apace. Having whipped the dispossessed Dunlendings and wild men into a frenzy of vengeance, he has sent them out, along with great bands of Uruk-hai warriors, to scour the kingdom of Rohan. Once Rohan falls, the last kingdom of men, Gondor, lies at the mercy of the Shadow. But Saruman does not rely solely on the depredations of his motley army to defeat the kingdom of the Horse Lords, for he has set a spy within its very heart. In the Golden Hall of Meduseld, in the Rohan capital of Erdaras, Grima Wormtongue sits at King Theoden's right hand, pouring words of poison into his ear, even to the extent of banishing the true-hearted Aemma. Aged beyond his natural years, his wits addled by sorcery, Theoden is no longer the heroic leader his people require in their hour of need, and now that Aemma has been removed, Rohan lies defenceless. Knowing Merry and Pippin to be with the Ents, Gandalf, Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli make for the court of Edoras, where Gandalf releases King Theoden from Saruman's sorcerous influence, and Grima Wormtongue is cast out, released to crawl back to his master's abode. As the spell is removed, the years and senility fall away from the king, until at last he is himself again, restored to his wits, his strength, and the knowledge of the magnitude of his task to save his people Osgiliath has become little more than an outpost of war. Through millennia, war and plague have decreased Gondor's power and its population, and after the failing of Elendil's line, the kingdom has no king. Gondor is no longer the mighty and glorious realm it once was. Minas Tirith, Mordor, this city has dwelt ever in sight of that shadow, where the white mountains come to an end, in the great peak of Mount Minnoloin. There lies Minas Tirith, the city of kings. It is a vast and elegant city, built in 7 levels of white stone, which have been carved into the hill, so that it looks less a creation of men's hands, but a settlement hewn out of the very bones of the earth by giants. Each level is ringed by a wall and battlements, and a gate set into each wall at different points, so that the paved road which climbs towards the 7th level zigzags its way to the summit. The topmost circle rises more than 700 feet above the great gate, which possessing such knowledge as that it can give way to despair, and thence to madness. The discovery of the death of his eldest son, Boromir, has already diverted his noble mind from a sane course, and in his grief he has turned against his younger son, Faramir, so that it seems there is nothing the young captain of Gondor can do to win his father's approval. That Faramir allowed Frodo Baggins to carry the One Ring into Mordor, rather than bringing it back to Gondor to be used as a weapon in the war against Sauron, is something his father cannot forgive. Yet, to send his younger son out to retake the fallen city of Osgiliath against overwhelming odds is surely a fool's mission, and one which must surely result in Faramir's death. The tombs of the stewards. On the Hallows, the silent shoulder of rock between the mountain and the citadel, there is a great domed chamber in which no breath stirs. Inside, draped with shadow, rows of tables carved from marble line this grim hall, and on each sarcophagus lies a sleeping form, hands folded on its chest. These are the tombs of the stewards, where the remains of the dead lie interred in crumbling grandeur, like grey ghosts. It is a place of great veneration, for the people of Gondor now seem to accord more reverence to the dead than to the living. Osgiliath. No army of Sauron has ever crossed the Anduin, not while men of Gondor have held the passage of the river. On either bank of the Anduin stand the ruins of a once mighty city, the two sides of which are linked by an ancient stone bridge which spans the great river. Known by the Gondorian people as Osgiliath, it was called the Citadel of the Stars by the Elves, and in the elder days was the capital city of the kingdom of Gondor. Over the passing of the centuries, after the depredations of war and plague had taken their toll on the population, the folk of Gondor gradually moved away from Osgiliath, abandoning it to the forces of age and time until little of its magnificence and grace remained. Towers were cast down, statues tumbled, weeds sprang up through the cobbled stones of its streets. Now, as a new and terrifying conflict shadows the third age of men, it has fallen into total disrepair and been transformed into a place of utter desolation, and its western side has become a frontier of war. Eastern Osgiliath has fallen into the hands of the forces of Mordor. Orcs and wargs and other fell creatures roam the ruins, but the western part of the city is patrolled by the Ithilien Rangers, men of Gondor under the captaincy of Faramir, son of Denethor of Minas Tirith. If the enemy can overcome this last-ditch defence, Gondor lies at the mercy of Sauron's army, and the great city of Minas Tirith will be the only hope left to men before the shadow falls over all the free peoples of Middle-earth. Another great image. Minas Tirith, the White City, in the background. And Gandalf riding Shadowfax. There's his white staff. The return of the king. Although the stewards and people of Gondor had lost faith the second token of his kingship shall be brought to him. The sword reforged from the shards of Isildur's ancient sword, Narsil, which cut from the Dark Lord's hand the one ring in the great battle which ended the Second Age, and which has until now lain in Rivendell, has come the sword reforged, Anduril, Flame of the West, made by the elven smiths. It bears 7 stars, a crescent sun, and a rayed moon, and its blade is carved with runes. It is now time for Aragorn to reveal himself to the Dark Lord through the palantir of Orthanc, the seeing stone which Gandalf bears. For to know that the heir of Isildur lives and walks, the earth will be a sore blow to Sauron's heart, and may further distract his great eye away from the ring-bearer on his perilous trek toward the Mountain of Fire. The Palantir. But instead, Sauron offers Aragorn a terrible vision of his beloved, pale and lifeless, reft of her elfin immortality. The even star, the glittering jewel which Orwen gave to Aragorn as a token of their love, shatters. Far away across Middle-earth the effect of this sorcery is felt. The power of the even star is broken, but to embrace life on Middle-earth and live as a mortal with her love was the choice which Arwen had already made. Even Sauron's malice cannot destroy their love. The paths of the dead. Every path you have trod, through wilderness, through war, has led to this road. This is your test, Aragorn. In the Second Age of Middle-earth, the men of the mountains swore an oath to the last king of Gondor, at the Black Stone of Erech, that they would come to his aid to fight against the Dark Lord. But when his need was desperate, they fled away into the haunted mountain, the Dwimmerberg, and so Isildur cursed them, that they should never rest in peace until they had fulfilled their oath. Now Aragorn, Isildur's heir, must call them to their oath, to aid the free peoples of Middle-earth in their dire struggle against the shadow. The road to the Dimalt is ominously silent. In that haunted place nothing stirs, neither wind nor bird. At the root of the mountain gapes a dark door like the mouth of night. Signs and figures are carved above its wide arch, and fear flows from it like a great vapour. No one living who has stepped through this door has returned alive, but Aragorn, Gimli and Legolas enter with grim resolve. Ghastly bony hands clutch at them out of the chill darkness. Fog swirls, voices wail. All around them are the dead, their king, and row upon row are his spectral warriors. As they gather for attack, Aragorn draws the sword reforged and claims their allegiance anew, promising in exchange for their duty that he will release them from their living death. They listen, and they follow. Sauron. The Dark Lord's history has long, deep roots. He entered the world as a Maya, as did the Astari wizards, Saruman and Gandalf in a later age, under the direction of the Valar, those purest of spirits, and his task was to tend to the world's good. But Sauron fell under the influence of Morgoth, a Valar who had betrayed his fellows and embraced evil and the pursuit of dominion. Thus was 7